South of Winterfell, the Stark children discover a dead adult direwolf pierced by antlers with 6 newborn pups beside her. Direwolves are almost never seen south of the Wall, so their appearance is taken as a powerful omen. The number of pups exactly matches the number of Stark children, convincing Ed Stark to let each child raise one. The direwolf is also the Stark sigil, making the bond symbolic as well as practical. From the beginning, the wolves are not treated as pets, but as northern predators who must be trained and respected. Each pup is claimed by one child, given a name that reflects character or destiny, and forms a deep connection, sometimes even psychic, mirroring the fate of its Stark. Greywind was bonded to Robb Stark, the eldest son and heir of Winterfell. His name comes from his ash-gray coat and unmatched speed, a reflection of Robb's own identity as a swift and decisive commander. Greywind was larger and fiercer than most wolves, and unlike some of his siblings, he was never treated as a pet. Robb raised him as a companion in war, and Greywind quickly became a symbol of Robb's leadership. In battle, he darted through enemy ranks, ripping down horses and scattering soldiers, creating the aura that earned Robb the title Young Wolf. His obedience was unmatched. He responded instantly to Robb's voice, reflecting Robb's natural ability to inspire loyalty in men. The bond between them went deeper than training. Northern legends of wargs suggest a mystical link where man and wolf share instincts, dreams, and even senses. Some theories claim Robb unconsciously warged into Greywind on the battlefield, which explains why the wolf could anticipate his commands so perfectly. This connection also reveals Robb's strengths and flaws. Disciplined yet impulsive, brave yet bound by duty. Greywind's savagery mirrored Robb's relentless push for victory, while his vulnerability to betrayal echoed Robb's downfall. Greywind's fate is tied tragically to Robb's. During the Red Wedding, Greywind was trapped in the stables by the Freys. Despite killing several guards and fighting to reach his master, he was brought down by a volley of arrows and crossbow bolts. The two were united even in death when Robb's body was desecrated. Greywind's head was sewn onto his corpse. This grotesque act was more than cruelty. It was symbolic desecration of House Stark's power and northern identity. Many readers and theorists argue that the moment is not just political humiliation, but also mystical severing. The death of Robb and Greywind together marked the end of the young wolf spirit, showing how inseparable the direwolves were from the Stark children's destinies. Lady was Sansa Stark's direwolf, the smallest and most graceful of the litter. From the beginning, she embodied the qualities Sansa valued: courtesy, beauty, and refinement. Sansa chose the name Lady herself, signaling her early desire to live as a perfect noblewoman, modeled after Southern ideals of femininity and grace. Unlike her siblings' wolves, Lady was calm, obedient, and easy to control. She followed Sansa with quiet dignity, rarely causing trouble, which reflected Sansa's own attempt to embody the expectations of a well-bred lady in the eyes of the court. The bond between Sansa and Lady was unique because it represented Sansa's innocence and her longing for a fairy tale life. Mystical theories suggest Lady's temperament was not simply chance, it was a direct reflection of Sansa's personality at the time, her softness, and her desire to fit into a southern world that was foreign to her northern blood. Some scholars of the story argue that Lady's death symbolized the death of Sansa's illusions. Unlike Arya, whose wolf Nymeria survived in the wild and became a reflection of independence, Lady's premature death cut Sansa off from the deeper warg-like connections her siblings later experienced. Without a wolf, she lost not only protection, but also a part of her northern identity. Lady's fate was sealed when Joffrey Baratheon lied about Arya's wolf attacking him. With Nymeria driven away by Arya to prevent her capture, Cersei Lannister demanded blood for blood. Lady, though innocent, was chosen as the substitute. Eddard Stark was forced to execute her himself, delivering the blow with ice, the greatsword of House Stark. This moment was devastating, as Lady was the first direwolf to die, and her death occurred far from battle or honor. It was a political act of cruelty. Mystically, Lady's killing is seen as a severing of Sansa from the rest of her family. She is the only Stark child left without a wolf, and from that point on, she becomes isolated in King's Landing, enduring manipulation and abuse without the spiritual bond that supported her siblings. Many theorists argue this absence shaped Sansa's later personality, pragmatic, cautious, and detached from mystical northern traditions. Nymeria was bonded to Arya Stark, and from the beginning, her nature reflected Arya's refusal to conform. Arya named her pup after the legendary warrior queen of the Rhoynar who led her people across the sea to Dorne, a woman remembered for independence and defiance. The name was not accidental. It revealed Arya's instinct to model herself after figures of strength and rebellion rather than the passive southern ladies her sister admired. Nymeria was willful, aggressive, and far less domesticated than the other direwolves, often resisting restraint. This mirrored Arya's own wildness, her impatience with rules, and her refusal to accept the rigid gender roles of Westerosi nobility. The bond between Arya and Nymeria was one of shared independence. Unlike Robb and Grey Wind, whose connection thrived on discipline, Arya and Nymeria thrived on freedom. When Arya struck Joffrey on the banks of the Trident, it was Nymeria who protected her by savaging the prince. Arya then drove Nymeria away with stones to save her from Lannister retribution. This act created physical separation but not spiritual distance. Mystical theories emphasize that Arya's warging potential continued through dreams in which she sensed Nymeria's hunts and movements, despite being thousands of miles apart. The wolf pack Nymeria later leads in the Riverlands is seen as an extension of Arya's own latent leadership and her refusal to be controlled. Nymeria's fate diverges from her siblings because she survives in the wild, free from human command. She gathers a massive pack of wolves, terrorizing soldiers and peasants alike. Symbolically, this represents Arya's path of becoming unbound by family or homeland. Just as Arya travels across continents and trains with the Faceless Men, Nymeria thrives outside the structures of nobility and household ties. Some theories suggest Nymeria embodies Arya's true self, unshaped by courtiers or assassins, instinctive, fierce, and untamed. When Arya later encounters her in the Riverlands, the recognition between them is immediate, though Nymeria turns away. Arya accepts this separation, quietly remarking, "It's not you." Many interpret this as Arya realizing that she, too, has changed forever. Just as Nymeria could never return to a domesticated life, Arya can never truly return to the girl she once was. Summer was bonded to Bran Stark, and his name carried an intentional irony. As Bran faced the harshness of a long winter, both literally and symbolically, his wolf was called Summer, a reminder of warmth, hope, and life. Bran chose the name after his fall, when his body was broken and his future uncertain. The wolf became his guardian and constant protector, embodying resilience and the promise that light could exist even in the darkest of seasons. Summer's temperament mirrored Bran's journey into mysticism. Unlike Grey Wind's discipline or Nymeria's wildness, Summer was patient, watchful, and deeply attuned to Bran's emotions. When Bran's warging abilities began to surface, Summer was the first vessel through which he fully experienced the mind of another creature. This bond blurred the line between boy and wolf. Bran dreamed of hunting, fighting, and smelling as Summer, and in return Summer responded to Bran's unspoken fears. Mystical theories argue that Summer was the key that unlocked Bran's path to becoming the Three-Eyed Raven, making him the direwolf most connected to magical destiny. Summer's loyalty was absolute. He defended Bran at Winterfell, guarded him during their flight north, and accompanied him through caves and forests. His bravery was evident when he saved Bran and Hodor from Whites, fearlessly throwing himself into combat even when outnumbered. Ultimately, Summer sacrificed himself to protect Bran inside the cave of the Three-Eyed Raven, holding off the dead so Bran could escape. His death was symbolic. As Bran fully stepped into his role as seer and lost his innocence, the wolf who represented hope and warmth fell. The message is clear: Summer could not survive once Bran had crossed into the cold realm of prophecy. The parallel between wolf and master is stark. As Bran shed his boyhood and embraced his identity as something beyond human, Summer's existence came to an end. Just as Bran could no longer live as an ordinary child, Summer could no longer remain in the world of mortals. Their fates were bound together, and Summer's death marks the final severing of Bran from the warmth of childhood into the unyielding winter of destiny. Shaggy Dog was bonded to Rickon Stark, the youngest of the Stark children. His name, chosen by Rickon himself, reflected a child's simple humor. The black pup's long, unruly fur made Shaggy Dog an obvious and playful label. Yet the name carries layered meaning. In literature, a Shaggy Dog story is a long tale that ends without resolution or payoff. Many readers interpret this as foreshadowing Rickon's own arc, a life of chaos, exile, and an abrupt, unsatisfying end. The wolf's temperament mirrored Rickon's unformed and volatile nature. Shaggy Dog was wild, aggressive, and difficult to control, much like Rickon, who grew up without the same guidance and structure as his siblings. After the fall of Winterfell and the scattering of the Stark family, Rickon's childhood was marked by instability. With no mentors to shape him and no home to anchor him, both boy and wolf descended into a feral state. Mystical theory suggests that Rickon, though very young, also possessed the Stark-warging ability. His tantrums, sudden bursts of violence, and Shaggy Dog's parallel reactions indicate that their bond was raw and instinct-driven, lacking the maturity that Bran or Arya later developed in their psychic connections. Shaggy Dog's symbolism is deeply tied to the theme of wasted potential. Unlike Grey Wind or Summer, who became extensions of their master's leadership and mystical growth, Shaggy Dog remained an untamed reflection of Rickon's neglected childhood. He represents what happens when a Stark child is cut off from stability, identity, and training. Some theories claim that Shaggy Dog's black coat embodies the darkness surrounding Rickon's fate, marking him as doomed from the start. The wolf's death came alongside Rickon's during the Bolton betrayal. After Rickon and Osha sought safety at Last Hearth, they were handed over to Ramsay Bolton. Both Shaggy Dog and Rickon were killed. Shaggy Dog beheaded as proof of Rickon's identity, and Rickon later murdered during the Battle of the Bastards. This brutal ending underlines the tragic theme. Rickon and Shaggy Dog never had the chance to grow, to develop bonds, or to fulfill their roles as part of the Stark legacy. Instead, both lives were cut short, leaving only the lingering sense of chaos and loss their existence represented. Ghost was bonded to Jon Snow, the Stark child who always stood slightly apart from his siblings. From the moment of discovery, Ghost was different. He was found a little distance from the other pups, smaller, silent, with a coat of pure white and eyes the color of blood. Jon named him Ghost for this eerie quietness and pale appearance, a name that also foreshadowed Jon's fate caught between life and death, presence and absence, belonging and exile. Ghost's temperament reflected Jon's personality more than any other direwolf mirrored its master. He was watchful, restrained, and independent, rarely making noise or demanding attention. Just as Jon grew into a man of the Night's Watch who often stood apart from others, Ghost moved like a shadow, guarding silently and striking only when needed. Mystical interpretations suggest that Ghost's red eyes and white coat symbolize the weirwoods of the north, the sacred trees tied to the old gods, marking him as an omen of Jon's spiritual connection to destiny. Some theorists argue that Ghost was not just Jon's companion, but his guide, foreshadowing Jon's own death and resurrection, when he too became a ghostly figure, altered and set apart from his kin. The bond between them was deeply psychic. Unlike Sansa, who lost Lady, or Rickon, who never developed his gift, Jon's connection to Ghost revealed his potential as a warg. In dreams, Jon slipped into Ghost's senses, feeling his heightened smell, sight, and hunger. These visions blurred the boundary between man and beast, giving Jon instincts that saved his life on more than one occasion. Ghost's silence also symbolized Jon's inner conflict, always watching, always present, but rarely speaking his true feelings. Ghost's fate was unlike his siblings. While most of the direwolves perished tragically, Ghost endured. He followed Jon beyond the wall, stood with him at the wall's defense, and later fought in the great battles that shaped Westeros. Though Jon eventually parted from Ghost for a time, leaving him behind at Castle Black, their reunion in the north restored the bond. Ghost survived until the end of the tale, representing the endurance of Jon's northern identity and his inseparability from the wild, mystical forces of the north. Where other direwolves' deaths marked endings, Ghost's survival symbolized continuity. Jon Snow, like his wolf, remained an outsider, silent and steadfast, watching over the realm as something more than human, yet never fully belonging.